Well, good morning and happy Wednesday. It's July 5th, 2023. This is Up North News Radio. I'm Pat Greitlow up here on Lake Wissota, where it's a little cloudy, but still been a pleasant Independence Day weekend overall. Long weekend for some of us. Appreciate you sticking around while I took a couple days off. Coming up this hour, we will, on this Wednesday, do a little catch up with some of our normal Monday and Tuesday guests. That would be Cherita Booker, who tells us about some of the most clicked stories that Up North News puts together. And Christina Lorey will talk about stories that go into the Up North News daily newsletter, kind of a feature or a theme of things you can do in Wisconsin in the summertime. And then in our second hour, there is a growing chorus of voices urging Governor Veto, Governor Evers to veto the Republican version of a state budget. So we will talk about the ways that Wisconsin taxpayers are already getting fleeced, having to pay for two parallel school systems, and what things the governor could do to relieve that burden, especially at a time of a huge budget surplus and great need around the state that Republicans refuse to address. So all of that gets going on our radio show, which starts at 6:06 right after the news and commercials. So if you're watching this later on video, fast forward this about 4.5 minutes and we'll get the show started. See you soon.
Hopefully you excuse me. Hopefully you haven't just given him a new name.
Maybe so. Governor Veto. And I did not see anything new from Luke in terms of Brewers tickets, right? I know he hinted that maybe there'd be some later in the week, but I haven't seen anything since. Have you?
I haven't either.
Okay, good. Okay. And this day in history, everything's in there for Thursday and Friday. I just haven't put in links yet, and I haven't put them in order yet. But that's everything that I could find.
Okay, I can find links for those later.
Okay. Here we go.
All across Wisconsin from Civic Media, this is Up North News Radio. Now, live from our Lake Wasota studio, here's the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Brightlow.
Well, hey there, Wisconsin. Good morning. Welcome to the state of Wisconsin Sense from the shores of Lake Wasota, where it's another beautiful day up north. It's a little cloudy, but pleasant just the same. 68 degrees for folks listening on our home base, 93.5 The Tap. It's Wednesday, July 5th, also known as Pat and Sherry's 37th wedding anniversary. So happy anniversary to that bride of mine who is on her way to work as we speak after having a really nice long weekend off with a daughter and grandkids here. It's been just wonderful. Green Bay clocking in at 73 this morning. Folks in Ashwaubenon listening to the talk of Green Bay. In Delafield, 68 degrees. Balsam Lake, 62 for folks tuning in on Lake Air. In Marshfield, it's 69 degrees, and Mazomanie coming in at 74. Here's what's on tap this morning. Are you perhaps as borderline addicted to Twitter as the host of this little morning show? Then both of us need to go outside and play a little bit more, since Elon Musk has made more moves that show he seems content to basically burn the birdie platform to the ground. So we will take our guests that we did not hear on Monday and Tuesday while we were off, bring them in today, and get some more ideas on how to go outside and play in Wisconsin. We'll have Cherita Booker's review of the most clicked Up North News stories and social media videos and such. Christina Lorey will preview upcoming features from our daily newsletter and have several ideas for enjoying Wisconsin without constantly having to check your cell phones. Then, in our 7 o'clock hour, with a growing chorus of voices urging Governor Tony Evers to veto the Republican version of a new state budget, we'll review the ways in which Wisconsin taxpayers are already getting fleeced by having to send more money to voucher schools that are less transparent. Feel free to discriminate and offer at best a mixed bag of results. And so we'll talk to a couple of guests in our 7 a.m. hour about that. Along the way, if you have comments on any of these topics or today's top stories, want to tell us what you were up to over the weekend, you can talk to folks on more than half a dozen stations across Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network by calling our studio line at 844-967-2789 or send us a note, radio@upnorthnewswi.com. Here's our usual reminder that Up North News is a separate entity from Civic Media. You can find the work that we do at upnorthnewswi.com, but you can follow this show and all the shows on Civic Media at the Civic Media website, civicmedia.us. Let's bring in Aaron Zommers out in Madison, who's holding things down there at the home base, and see how the holiday weekend went for you. I know you were working for part of it, unlike your lazy host that took the long weekend, but how'd the weekend go otherwise?
It was good. Starting to get settled into my new apartment, getting things unpacked. Unfortunately, still suffering from some early summer allergies, as I'm sure you can hear.
Yeah. What I know that, for people when it's spring and the trees are first, starting to bloom and the plants are blossoming. So if you have it this much later, is it because it's tied to a specific like late blooming tree or plant or something, or
Probably,
or
but
is it
I
is
don't
it
know.
hay? Is it when they're cutting the hay crop? Is that what does it for you? Yeah.
Maybe. I'm honestly not sure.
Okay. Well, I hope it gets better soon here. We had, like I mentioned, we had a couple of grandkids here, the 4-year-old, the 1-year-old. So if I sound a little ragged, it's not allergies. It's somebody who turned 59 over the weekend and is trying to keep up with little humans. But we did.
Yeah, I hope you enjoyed your 4-day celebration of your birth and the
Uh,
country.
oh yeah, and the country too. It was fine. I have learned that I don't want to say immune to fireworks because they get really loud all around Lake Wasota. People, are setting their money on fire and popping fireworks, and they appear to be getting louder all the time. Boy, when it's time to sleep, I'm gonna sleep. I hear them as I'm crawling into bed at too early an hour for the 4th of July, but those things they don't bug me. Other people, I know it just bugs the tar out of them. But, if that's what you want to do with your money, go for it. I'm going to sleep just the same. I don't know what the situation's like in Madison, or if everybody just goes to the regular organized, show that you have there in the city.
It was a little bit loud, but I was also able to just fall asleep. I was so tired.
Well, we had a full weekend here. So, and I had the satisfaction of, we had good weather for most of the weekend, but then we did have a line of thunderstorms that was approaching. And are there many things more satisfying than timing out a task outdoors to get it done, before the rains or the storms come? And that's what I did with some grilling yesterday. Just your basic grilling, burgers and dogs and brats, things like that. But, to know and to be constantly looking at the weather app on your phone, to see if you're going to have to, bail out, and to get it all done before the storm comes is a nice thing, because then I could get inside, watch the Brewers and Cubs, which was amazingly satisfying on Monday with that come from behind victory. A little less so yesterday, but still, to anytime you can come from behind and at least tie a division rival like the Cubs, that's some good stuff. And, the crowds, as always, sounded very raucous there. And the folks that won tickets on this program were at the game Monday, and then they'll play again a couple more times here. So hopefully everybody enjoyed that as well. So as I mentioned, we'll take a break first. We'll talk a bit more about the Cubs and the Brewers playing, a couple of other quick sports notes, and then we'll hear from Cherita Booker about the most clicked on stories around Up North News. Christina Lorey later in this hour. We've got today's history lesson, some birthdays, little music break, including starting, right after the commercial here, somebody in the music world who has a birthday on this day. So stick around for all that and much more ahead on this Wednesday morning midweek edition of Up North News Radio. We'll be back here up north. All right, Cherita's ready to roll here.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to do quite a bit of sports here first, and then say something briefly about Twitter, and then cue Cherita.
Yeah, as far as the rain yesterday, I was sitting inside taking a break from the heat, and a bunch of my friends were outside getting ready to play some drinking game I've never heard of. And it just started pouring instantly for like 5 minutes.
We actually found that the rain and storms all kind of kept breaking up, so we never got the worst of it. It was always a little worse to the west here, but on the other hand, there's like no more yellow patches on the lawn. Everything is green again, so that's a nice development.
If only that were the case in Madison.
Oh yeah, no, it's not been a good summer in a lot of spots, that's for sure.
Put on my blue suede shoes and I boarded the plane.
So as mentioned, there's one musical birthday to tell you about here. Mark Cohn is 64, who gave us Walking in Memphis. More coming up at 6:50. Time for sports now at 6:15. A left fielder, Ian Happ from the Cubs, threw 2 runners out at home in extra innings, and the Cubs pulled out a 7-6 win over the Brewers in 11 innings on Tuesday. after squandering a late lead for the second consecutive game. In both games, Monday and Tuesday, the Cubs put up 6 runs. They looked to be in a position to win, but the Brewers would come chipping right back. They won on Monday. But as far as yesterday went, well, they did score twice in the 8th, twice more in the bottom of the 9th to tie it. Then in the bottom of the 10th, pinch runner Andrew Monasterio was placed at second base as the automatic runner. He tried to score the winning run on Owen Miller's one-out single to left, but Happ cut him down at the plate. Then later, Miller tried to tag up from third and score the tying run on a pop fly to left from Bryce Terang. But again, Happ threw him out at the plate in the 11th to end the game. Game 3 is this evening. Game 4 is tomorrow afternoon. Then the Cincinnati Reds come to town for the weekend before starting the All-Star break. Catch the Brewers on News from the Center in Richland Center, 107.7 FM, 1450 AM, or in the Fox Valley at Oshkosh Air Support, 98.3 FM, 1100 AM. The U.S. Senior Open wrapped up at Century World during this past weekend. Bernard Langer won it with a 2-stroke victory over home state favorites Steve Stricker and Jerry Kelly. Stricker came in second. Jerry Kelly finished third. And good news for Bucks fans, if you missed it over the weekend, they retained their big man, Brooke Lopez, and also Chris Middleton. So a couple of favorites that we worried might be lost to free agency are in fact going to be back for the new season. So it was over the weekend that once again, Elon Musk took to Twitter and took one giant step closer to turning it into something even more useless, even more a shell of its former self. You see, if you're on Twitter, or at least were, much like TikTok and Instagram, you can scroll with abandon. And some people scroll all day. And even if they're just like somebody in the news business and you're scrolling looking for news, there's not a limit. You're looking for, what's going on out there in the world. I've always compared Twitter to the old Associated Press teletype machines in newsrooms. It's just a constant stream of either news or garbage, depending on how you set up your feed. Anyway, over the weekend, Musk put some new curfews basically on the digital town square, something that's probably going to drive away advertisers and continue to undermine its cultural influence as a trendsetter. Remember, Musk bought the platform for $44 billion last year, laid off roughly 3/4 of the workforce to cut costs, and then saw advertisers bail out because of changes that have allowed more hateful content and offending a wider part of the audience. I can testify. The stuff that comes up automatically in my Twitter feed now is garbage. To put it kindly, I did not ask for these things to be there, but it's what Elon Musk wants me to see, and it's why I'm constantly looking at some alternatives, whether it's Mastodon, Post, Blue Sky. Meta has a new one coming out tomorrow called Thread or Threads. Anyway, all these new rules are designed to relieve the Twitter infrastructure because another cost-cutting move. But for folks who use Twitter to keep up with a sports game or extreme weather conditions or a major news event, they're going to hit those new limits and be unable to see or post information. And they're going to check out. The limit is that what Musk wants is people to pay him after he overpaid $44 billion. If you're not a monthly subscriber, a paid subscriber, you're going to be restricted to the number of posts you can see per day. And then verified accounts will have a higher limit, but a limit just the same. So it got us to thinking about ways that maybe we could put down the phone and go outside. And usually on Mondays and Tuesdays, we talk to, Cherita Booker and Christina Lorey. So I've talked to both about what they're working on for Up North News. And up next, we're going to hear my conversation with Cherita about some of the more clicked stories, Christina Lorey about what's in our newsletter, all with the same theme of, there's a lot happening in Wisconsin. Why don't you go outside and be a part of it? We normally on Mondays visit with Cherita Booker, who does all the social media posting for Up North News. Of course, Monday being my birthday, it was a national holiday, and Tuesday the same. So here's Cherita now to tell us about some of the stories that were quite popular on Up North News on all of our various accounts last week. Cherita, good morning.
Good morning, Pat. How are you?
Hey, good. We're in July now. We're into summertime. Folks who are going to go camping are going to do that now, or people who are curious about it are going to do the same. And they must like getting some ideas on camping, because there was a camping theme that was one of our most clicked on graphics over the past week. Tell us about it.
So we put together a map of Wisconsin campgrounds with the best water features. So that includes water slides, splash pads, paddle boats, and all sorts of activities. And we highlighted spots from southern to northern Wisconsin. So there's something for everyone. And if you didn't find any place that's near you, we also have a link that you can click that has more places in Wisconsin with those water features.
Were there, I would imagine in the comments, much like the outdoor music venue and the favorite beer and everything, I'm guessing some other folks put in their own pitch for their own favorite campgrounds along the way.
Of course, we had so many comments for that. People definitely have their favorites, and they also have some more recommendations for places that aren't exactly campgrounds. So if it's just like you're, in the city and you just want to go to a splash pad for the day, there's comments to places like that as well.
See, this is where I like the digital age we live in, the internet age, where, it's not just the TV anchorman talking to you, that people can say, well, hey, here's an idea too. Here's another idea. I hope that it was much like the outdoor music venue one, where like nobody went all trollish on politics and stuff. Save that for the political stories. But what about you? Do you have your own favorite campground or your own favorite water feature when you want to do something with the family?
So when I do water activities, it's usually in the Wisconsin Dells. So we always go to like a water resort, like in like the Kalahari or something like that. So, and if we do anything outdoors, it'll be like the water resort outdoor park versus going inside, because, in the wintertime, that's what we usually do.
Oh yeah. Yep.
But I don't go camping much, honestly.
No, I haven't in a long time either, since my Boy Scout days, but nothing against it. It just never gets very high on the priority list compared to other people. I'm driving from Rice Lake to Chippewa Falls last Sunday, and 53 is just filled with folks who are in their RVs and towing their boats. And you can tell we are just an amazing destination for people who do want to spend, summertime in the great outdoors. Unfortunately, there's been something that's been hampering that time in the great outdoors, and that's been the great big number of fires up in Canada. And unfortunately, it's led to some visuals that are compelling, if not a little depressing or even unhealthy.
Yeah, so we posted a video to our social media accounts of Milwaukee and how bad the air quality is looking outside, or how it was looking outside last week. There was an advisory, and they are warning people to stay indoors they warn people to stay indoors for a few days there. And Wisconsin also put out an advisory for multiple days during that time as well. The DNR, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I feel very fortunate here that while we have definitely had some smoky days where, out on the horizon, it gets really hard to see, but it's more kind of in the whitish, grayish, fog kind of smoke. But those pictures from the Milwaukee and Chicago areas, where sometimes it's just, brown or almost orange, and it looks just awful. And I can only imagine, Cherita, that you've had to spend more time indoors than usual, at least last week when all this was really getting bad.
Yeah, I had to let my kids know it wasn't a day to go, or the next couple of days we weren't going outside, and it's kind of depressing sitting in the house for so many days during nice weather. So we found things to do, but hopefully the rest of the summer is pretty in the clear.
Oh, sure hope so, as hopefully more of these fires get under control. But again, if there are and continue to be air quality advisories, we'll certainly put up posts about them and appreciate people's feedback on it. Last but not least, from the news side of thing, there's a website story that I worked on, and I think people are very happy to hear that internet connections in Wisconsin are going to keep getting better.
Yeah, that should be very significant for people in rural areas. And you know more about this than I do, Pat, since you wrote it.
Well, exactly. And that's simply because the way that, look, the comparison was made to rural electrification. When that got started in the 1930s, 90% of America's farms had no electricity in their homes, in their barns. And if you'd have waited for, some private company to come out and do it, who knows how much longer it would have taken. And so, the government undertook a project to get everybody hooked up. That's what has to happen in the here and now with high-speed internet. Sure, there's all kinds of big companies. I knew this in the legislature. We worked on a bill where AT&T, at the time was really looking to expand, and they said we're going to go all over Wisconsin, but it turned out they spent a lot of time in the suburbs early on. That's where they can make the money. Now the Biden administration and the Evers administration are taking this much more seriously, getting broadband worthy internet connections out to everybody in Wisconsin. And Cherita, that means, closer to your home base in Milwaukee too. There are either dead zones or there are places that have service, but the service isn't always reliable. It's not always high speed service. So, I mean, there's room for improvement everywhere, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, we've had like a lot of outages, in Milwaukee, even in my neighborhood. It's pretty often. I feel like every month at least there's some kind of outage. So hopefully that'll improve in the future
And the
with this
things,
infrastructure.
right. And the thing that you need is competition. By and large, you only get one choice, for a cable company or an internet service provider. And so hopefully once you get that, first company in, maybe other people come in and compete and improve on it. But again, a lot of people were reading that story because it does have appeal. They like seeing that somebody is finally taking this seriously and doing something about our internet connection speeds. So for those stories and more, Cherita Booker is putting them up on all of our social media feeds, Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and TikTok and whatever else is coming along next. Cherita is going to be on top of it. Hey, thanks again. Appreciate it. Good to talk to you this morning. Have a great day.
Thanks for having me.
So about the infrastructure, a little bit more about that. As we know, the bipartisan infrastructure law is going to push about $42 billion in projects around the country. And it was truly bipartisan, got a number of Republican votes in the House and the Senate. None of them from Wisconsin. Every Republican from Wisconsin voted against this. Now, near as I can tell, and I'll count on you to tell me if I'm wrong, none of the Republicans so far from Wisconsin have been as stupidly shameless as others were this past week when they were talking up some of the benefits of the infrastructure bill coming to their state. Senator Tommy Tuberville put up a post about how, broadband funds are coming to Alabama to boost efforts there. And Texas Senator John Cornyn tweeted an article about Texas getting $3 billion for broadband. And Representative Nancy Mace even hosted a press conference to celebrate $26 million coming to Charleston, South Carolina. One small problem, as others were quick to point out, all three of them voted against the bipartisan infrastructure bill. And so don't get to take credit for anything. They did nothing to make these good things happen in their district. Christina Lorey next. You're up north. So did you have to sit there Monday and Tuesday or just Monday?
Just Monday.
Okay.
And only for a few hours, just for town call and Todd's show.
Okay. Now let's do the uplift, which again, normally done on Tuesdays, but because of the holiday, here we are on this Wednesday, July 5th. I think we all know what comes next. Happy birthday to you, Christina. Yes, right?
I did. I didn't know you knew.
I pay attention to things. I do.
I thought you were singing a belated happy birthday to America, and I was like, oh, that's cute. I was going to jump on board.
It's all for you. You're a July 5th baby, huh?
I am. The fun story about that is that my parents are huge Sox fans, and they went to the game on the 4th of July, and my mom was obviously very, very pregnant, and she was ready to have a child. So she ate a nachos with a ton of jalapenos. So if you are, I mean, I only have like a one case study in this, but if you're highly pregnant, feeling uncomfortable, and you eat a lot of jalapenos, your baby is guaranteed to be born within hours.
I like that's a medical survey N of 1, and hey, it works. So there you go. All right. Well, there we are. See, we got this week. They got me on the 3rd, you on the 5th, America somewhere in the middle. My wedding anniversary today. It's just a big day on the calendar. So anyway, happy birthday.
Oh, and happy anniversary to you and your wife.
Thank you very much.
How many years?
37.
Wow.
I know.
It's weird you got married when you were 2.
Yeah, right. Oh, the years they go by. And actually, since we're still really off topic, Labor Day this year will mark the 40 years since we first met at a bar on Water Street in Eau Claire. So there you go. 40 years of magic, all because the drinking age was 18 back then. So
I mean, while we're just celebrating anniversaries, we should just invite people to call in and just tell us if it's your birthday or anniversary. We're just going to shout
absolutely.
out.
Well, especially if it's near a holiday like this, because you and I both had birthday parties that were either impacted or weren't held because everybody was gone for the 4th of July. So we always hear about the people with Christmas birthdays, but frankly, anybody else with a birthday near a holiday, you can call in and tell us your tale of woe, because you will find a sympathetic ear right here with Pat and Christina. All right. Now let's jump into it. First up on the uplift this week. I like this. I like this so much. Field trips. Field trips are a thing you always associate with, childhood. And there's some places where it feels like every field trip goes and then you're kind of done. But you're saying there's a story here that field trips don't have to be done. What's it about?
Yes, this is actually the perfect segue, because we were kind of talking about what it's like to be a kid, having birthdays, having summer birthdays, especially. The biggest thing that I felt like I always missed out on was bringing treats for my class for my birthday and feeling special. But the other day of school where you always feel special is anytime you're out on a field trip. So there are some places that you probably haven't been, and maybe you didn't even think of until we put together this list of 15 amazing field trips that every Wisconsinite took as a kid and that are even better as an adult. So some of the places on this list, Pat, I want to test you out because you're the one who was born here. Old World, Wisconsin. Have you been there?
I have not, especially since I was not born here. I've been part of Wisconsin since I was 7, but the field trips were all, out over in the Twin Cities, where you have to take the obligatory trip to Fort Snelling, which, one of the first governors, their house is open. And that was kind of their version of Old World of Wisconsin, which I've read so much about and really want to get to. And it's just nice to think that I can take that field trip as an adult.
Yes. And then some that are a little more obvious, the state capitol building tour in Madison. It's really, really cool as an adult. Of course, I've only taken it as an adult, but especially in the summer, you can go on a nice day all the way up to the top of the dome. I mean, it's really just I was going to say once in a lifetime view, but you can go up there as many times as you want. The tour is free, open to everyone. It's really, really fun.
But it also works out really well if, as an adult field trip, your guide is a former state senator, because I got to do that with a bunch of Sherry's friends. We all gathered in Madison earlier this year for a 40-year class reunion for, folks from Reedsville up there in Manitowoc County. And after we had breakfast at the Old Fashioned, I said, you guys want to, look around the Capitol? They said, sure. And, because of, the job I used to have, I was given special access into other parts of the Capitol. And I was really surprised at how much of an impression it made on my wife's friends that they were able to get this adult insider tour of the state capitol.
That is awesome. I'm gonna have to ask you for a tour next time you're in town.
There you go.
One other place, because I could go on and on about this. There's so many neat places that kids were lucky. If you did grow up here, you had a lot of neat field trips. This other one is Cave of the Mounds in Blue Mounds. They're like million-of-year-old caves that you can go down into and see all the different fossils. Now, this is one I can't decide if it would be cooler as an adult or if the main allure is that kids don't really like conceptualize being claustrophobic yet, because I don't know. Like, I went into a ton of caves. I'm trying to think. It's a very popular cave. The name's escaping me, in Kentucky, I believe, on a road trip. We used to drive to Atlanta a lot from Chicago, growing up. And I went in a cave there, and I do not like caves. They're very, very claustrophobic. So if that doesn't bother you, Cave of the Mounds looks amazing, but I'm going to be staying above ground.
Don't blame you. For me, it's more about whether it's a confined space. For example, there's crystal caves over in the western part of the state, and we've been there for field trips for our daughters. But it's a very, very large cave that you're going through. I could never go into a very confined cave-like space. Just no way, wouldn't happen. But if it's one of those larger areas, yeah, I could see doing that, and I could see adults really liking it too.
The cave I was thinking of is Mammoth Cave in Kentucky.
Oh,
and that is amazing, and it's huge. But the problem is, once you get down there, in order to really explore, then the things become tight, and there's something just about, I'm an overthinker, so I'm sure I was just freaking myself out. But if you do visit, please take pictures and send them in to us, because we would love to see.
because that's the only way that Christina is going to see them at this point.
I'm making other people do my work for me.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. We actually, one of our early stories for Up North News back in the summer of 2020 was a story about how Cave of the Mounds is reopening in the age of COVID, how they had self-guided tours and masks for sale. And I know we did some other story. I don't know if it was Cave of the Mounds or another place, where they also had after dark events that were adult only, and they had like a liquor license, so you could have like a little party in the caves. So
that is the most Wisconsin thing I've ever heard.
Isn't it though? Yes. Without a doubt. All right, let's move on to summer reading lists.
Yes. So we put together actually 2 summer reading lists that are live on our website right now. One is 8 books by Wisconsin authors that you should read this summer. A little sample. There's a murder mystery called A Death in Door County. I read it. It's really good. It's the first installment of a new mystery series by Annalise Ryan. Another one is by a UW-Madison Masters of Fine Arts alum called I Could Live Here Forever. And it's it's one of those books I can't really explain without giving too much away, because I kind of forget the order that everything is revealed, but it's very much a page turner. And one last one called Tailspin, which would be really interesting for anyone that likes historical fiction, likes history, enjoys nonfiction, because it's the real life tale of a Wisconsin veteran who his name is Gene Moran, and he fell 4 miles through the sky without a parachute, and he survived during the war. He landed on I can't give all the details away again, but it's just an incredible story that, again, I really think anyone could find value in. And it's nice to know that they're from a Wisconsin author. And then we also, if you are a book lover, you can tell that I'm very chatty on this topic. We also compiled a list. We reached out to our entire nationwide team, because Up North is just one branch of a parent group called Courier News. And so we had our writers, editors, digital managers, everyone across the country provide their favorite book that they've read recently. And we put those all on one summer reading list. I think there are more than 40 titles on there. And
46, yes.
46. Okay. So if you want any recommendations from people that really are readers, and we are all different ages, genders, generations. We have all kinds of different interests. So I can guarantee there's something on that list for you.
Cherita Booker, our social media manager, her contribution to it was the title of this book is "My Sister, the Serial Killer."
Wow.
So yeah, so there's that.
You can learn a little bit about us too, based on what we recommend and judge us.
Yes, probably surprising nobody listening to this show because of how often I bring it up. But my contribution was Milked, the book by Ruth Conniff, how an American crisis brought together Midwestern dairy farmers and Mexican workers. But yeah, 46 different recommendations here from folks from all around the country who work for Courier Newsroom. And again, that is right up there on our website, upnorthnewswi.com. So yes, by all means, go and take a look at that. And there's still plenty of summer left to get some reading in.
Yes. And you're never too old, even though, those summer reading library programs are geared towards kids. Now with Goodreads, it's sometimes fun to track how many books you read and do a little competition with your friends or family.
Then last but not least for this week, we're going to go back to the Capitol Square. We talked about concerts on the square previously, which, by the way, ended up being delayed because of all the smoke from the Canadian fires, but it'll ramp back up. And then something else that's very fascinating to see on Capitol Square. I've been to it once and would encourage it from other people as part of a road trip, and that would be Art Fair on the square. Tell us about that.
Yes, Art Fair on the Square is a huge draw here in Madison. If you've ever been on a farmer's market Saturday, it's very much a similar setup where you'll see the entire square lined in tents, but it's even bigger if you can imagine. There are tents on both sides of the street and down many of the side streets as well. It attracts more than, I think, 500 different artists, and they're all there at once. Whereas the farmer's market, there's, I'll say, only about 150 vendors on any given Saturday. So it's more than 3 times as large as that. It draws more than 200,000 people, both Saturday and Sunday. And it's just a great way to support both tried and true artists and then those up and comers. They have a neat section. It's if you walk along just down State Street, the first couple booths on that street, there'll be like 8 to 12 booths that are all up and coming artists from Wisconsin. One of my friends was actually in that section last year. She owns a small art studio in Door County, and her art of choice is making maps, like very intricately drawn tiny maps that she frames in a cute way of a very specific town. So she has some of like Chippewa Falls, of Ellison Bay, a very, they're kind of niche places. She's not just doing the obvious Milwaukee or Madison, but she really gets in there, and she takes commissions only a few times a year. But that's the kind of art that you'll find here, something that you might never have seen anyplace else before. Something else that both my parents always come down for this because they enjoy browsing and picking up art. They really like these little signs. They're painted on ceramic and they have cute sayings. Both my mom and I have matching ones that say "Love you to the moon and back." They also have like some funny quotes on there, like, it's "Your day doesn't start until you have coffee," or they say it cuter than I do. But they have really good things at all different price points. Those are only about $10. And then they also have like massive paintings that real art collectors go out there for, and they'll be bidding for, that are thousands and thousands of dollars. So there really is something for everyone there too.
Well, there you go. So the 3 great ideas for things you can find over at the Up North News social media feeds from the birthday girl, Christina Lorey, who I suppose since you're in Madison, it's obligatory. I'm sure we'll see you at the Nitty Gritty later on for your birthday beverage.
I've actually never done that. And
now we have a plan.
I know. Thank you.
I can't be there, but yeah, somebody's listening, going to hear this. Take this girl out to the Nitty Gritty tonight. All right. Thanks, Christina. Have a great birthday.
Thank you, Pat.
Can't believe she hasn't been to the nitty yet. Anyway, hey, coming up, Melissa Kay is going to join us from locally grown radio, WFHR. We'll have our history lesson and music break. Also, a federal judge curtails efforts to fight pandemic misinformation. And we'll tell you about Donald Trump's very sad 4th of July. All that, plus a whole lot about public education in our 7 o'clock hour ahead. You're Up North. And there's Melissa.
Hello.
How's it going?
Oh, pretty good. How are you guys?
Good, good. What'd you do on the 4th?
Visited with some friends.
Very
It was
nice.
somebody's birthday party, so we went
Okay,
and hung out with them.
good deal.
Yeah, how about you? How was your birthday?
It was very nice. My younger daughter's here and her 2 little ones who are 4 and 1.
Aw.
And the 1-year-old girl is just, she's just a spark plug. She just kind of got that mischievous look about her now, and just a happy thing. And Teddy, he's little grandpa's boy. So yeah, we've had a very nice time. They leave this morning to go back to Michigan, so it's been good.
Good.
Yeah. So yeah, back to the old grind.
Yep. It never goes away.
No. But I'm getting better at remembering that if I don't have to achieve everything, because it'll be in the inbox tomorrow too.
Yes, that's accurate.
So you triage as best you can. All right. So we got a few music notes and then a couple of social media things to talk about here.
Okie dokie.
And we'll get that going in 10 seconds.
Hit the road, Jack. Don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack. And don't you come back no more.
What you say?
The aforementioned song is in no way a reflection on Melissa Kay from Locally Grown Radio, WFHR, joining us. She does not have to hit the road yet, at least for another 8 minutes or so. Melissa, nice to have you here. As she continues
Glad to be
plugging
here.
in. There we go, getting all the knobs and dials just right. How was your holiday?
It was good. Very relaxed after the weekend was done.
Good. Well, nice to have you here. We played that tune because it was on this day in 1961 that Ray Charles released Hit the Road Jack and Unchain My Heart, which we'll hear a little bit later on. We played a whole lot of Huey Lewis from Huey Lewis in the News last Friday for the anniversary of the sports album hitting #1. Huey Lewis turned 73 years old today. And we already mentioned Mark Cohn from Walkin' in Memphis fame turning 64. Another song released on this day in 1965 came from the Four Tops. That, of course, would be the same old song on this day in 1965. Melissa, where are you on spam? Not the email, the edible kind.
Oh, I immediately went to the edible kind.
Yeah.
I love the fact that in Hawaii they have so many more varieties of spam than we do here.
Oh my gosh, yes, so many. Aaron,
They really?
yes. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
they have like a jalapeno spam and bacon spam, and there's just a ton of them.
There's a friend of mine, and I like spam, but I've got a friend who loves spam. And so the best gift he ever got from somebody was like this full variety pack. His wife, not as big a fan of spam, and did not like the way her kitchen had all these different new odors, for each flavor. But he loved them all. He just loved them. So
I got a can of spam as a prize once. It's like a trophy.
that's there's
It's probably like two decades old now, and it's still in the can.
It's still going to taste exactly the same. Yes. On this day in 1946, the first modern bikini was modeled at a swimming pool in Paris. A worldwide scandal ensued. On this day in 1948, the United Kingdom created the first national public health system, the National Health Service Act, and the U.S. has been behind the curve ever since. Another
Yes, ma'am.
song released in the 1960s. Let's go to 1969, and this song released by The Who.
I'm free. I'm free.
On this day in 1994, Hootie and the Blowfish released their debut album, Cracked Rear View. It didn't take off for several more months to follow, but was released this day in 1994 and eventually just went bonkers with 21 million sales thanks to hits like Only Want to Be With You. Jeff Bezos began Amazon on this day in 1994. On that same day in 1994, not only did Cracked Rear View come out, not only did Amazon begin, but on that same day, Shohei Ohtani was born. Japanese baseball player. He turns 29 years old today, along with Amazon. And Melissa, I don't know where you and Aaron are on sports, but I don't think you have to be a big baseball fan to understand what Ohtani is doing in terms of being both this home run, level hitter and, this master pitcher. It's something that hasn't been seen since Babe Ruth, and others would say hasn't been seen ever, the way that he's doing these things. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's completely lost on the rest of the population.
All you, Aaron. I know nothing about baseball.
Oh no!
Yeah, he's doing great things for baseball. I'm fully aware of all of it.
Oh my goodness!
See,
Okay.
I knew he would be.
Yeah. Okay, Melissa, we're taking you off the cultural hook for that one, I guess. Also, let's see. This day in 1997, the all-female Lilith Fair tour kicked off, organized by Sarah McLachlan. The show was in Washington State. That first show. Throughout the subsequent stops, the lineup would include Jewel, Suzanne Vega, Paula Cole, Emmylou Harris, Sheryl Crow, Fiona Apple, and many more. And on this day in 2008, Katy Perry began a 7-week run at number 1 on the singles chart with this hit.
This was never the way I planned, not my intention.
Katy Perry's I Kissed a Girl, number 1 song this day in 2008. Melissa, you talked about your holiday. Aaron had a good holiday. I certainly did. I'm pretty sure the saddest holiday was held by Donald Trump, who simply posted, the equivalent of tweets all day. It was just that cranky guy on social media. I don't want to say I feel bad for him, but it's kind of pitiful.
That sounds a little pathetic. I didn't hear anything about it because I'm not on Twitter or any.
No,
of
and
those
he's not
places
either.
that
He's on
he
this little
posts.
teeny tiny network of his. And so as, let's say the president and Jill Biden talked about celebrating the 4th of July, thinking of the countless service members who sacrifice so much to keep us safe. We'll always be in debt to those who defend our nation and democracy around the world. You had Donald Trump posting a mocked up image showing him dressed up as a general during the Revolutionary War. He passed along an image about the number of votes that he says he got in 2020, along with a flag reading, F Biden. He talked about how he's never seen a pro-Biden hat, T-shirt, or flag in his life, because apparently if you don't see signs
It's
and
all
T-shirts,
about the merch.
it's all about the merch with him. Yes. It's all about the money. So, and he
Sad
did,
and pathetic.
and plenty of other things like that he does every holiday. He's not in any parades, at any cookouts, and anything that would actually look like something a presidential candidate does. Just the angry old man.
He didn't get invited.
No, I guess. and the ones he did get invited to, he of course would not want to be seen, in places like that, because they probably don't have a gold toilet. One other quick thing I wanted to bring attention to is that a judge on Tuesday, on the 4th of July, put out a ruling, which tells me this is a judge who's seeking attention, put out a note prohibiting the White House and several federal agencies from working with social media companies, claiming that the administration contacting social media companies gets in the way of protected First Amendment speech, when what the administration was trying to do was help knock down misinformation about the COVID pandemic. Now, again, I'm no First Amendment lawyer, but it seems to me that a government agency trying to keep people from dying is not the same as government censorship. But
No.
I could be wrong on that. Melissa, in just a few seconds here, what have you been doing or what you going to do on Locally Grown Radio?
We're going to have Sheriff Sean Becker in, I believe, or Wood County Sheriff's Department. I don't know who. It could be Becker, or one of his fellow officers. And then on Friday, we're going to have Senator Patrick Teston in, I believe.
Okay,
or maybe it was Krug. One of the two. We talked to both of them quite a bit. So
what we know is there will be guests, and they will talk about things that are going on.
That's what happens
in
on Locally Grown Radio.
Wisconsin Rapids area. No, that's how these things go. Melissa, thanks so much. Glad you had a great holiday.
Yeah, you too, and happy birthday.
Thank you so much. All right, back with much more in our 7 o'clock hour. You're up north. There we go. Thank you, Melissa, so much.
Yes, good to see you both.
See ya. Bye.
Have a good week.
Thanks.
All across Wisconsin from Civic Media, this is Up North News Radio. Now, live from our Lake Minnesota studio, here's the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Brightlow.
All right, welcome back to the second hour of Up North News Radio for this Wednesday, July 5th. Nice to have you along. Coming up in this hour, parental rights for me and not for thee. There's a growing chorus of voices urging Governor Evers to veto the Republican version of a new state budget. And we'll review the ways Wisconsin taxpayers are already getting fleeced by having to send money to voucher schools that are less transparent and operate under the guise of parental rights. But whose parental rights exactly are we talking about? And does that include the right to discriminate, for example? We'll talk to Heather Dubois-Bournon and Danielle Whitaker about that. If you missed our last hour, Cherita Booker reviewed the most clicked Up North news stories, and Christina Lorey previewed some upcoming features, all offering some ideas for enjoying Wisconsin without having to constantly check your phone for social media. You can do that anytime, of course, by going over and looking for Up North News WI on social media any place, but you also need to get out and enjoy the great outdoors. And if you want to hear that episode, go to civicmedia.us or Apple, Spotify, all the normal places where you get your podcast, and listen to our show as a podcast that way. We'd love to have you around for that. Well, a lot has happened over the past few days in terms of, Supreme Court decisions that locked in place the ability to discriminate against others. There was a big conference in Philadelphia last week with a group that didn't even exist 3 years ago called Moms for Liberty. And now it's described basically as a Republican kingmaker, this organization. And the more people have looked into it, the more they've seen this is hardly some kind of a grassroots operation. This is something that has had funding and support by plenty of people who have been working to undermine things related to public health, to diversity, to an honest teaching of American history. And yet groups like Moms for Liberty are able to operate under the guise of parental rights. They've been able to get themselves framed in the national media as being just a ragtag group of moms who are exasperated by, for example, all the school closings and masking and vaccine requirements, to which I'd kindly remind the people writing these glowing headlines, there are a whole bunch of us who are exasperated. Just completely fed up with people who died because of the exasperation of others who couldn't be bothered to put on a mask or stay home in the early months of a pandemic that killed 1.1 million Americans. And we're exasperated with people whose hatred of diversity and inclusion has reached the point where even teaching or encouraging it is referred to as indoctrination, when the real story is that hatred and division are the things that are indoctrinated. Children aren't learned to hate. Children aren't born hating and dividing. That's taught to them. That's the actual indoctrination that's going on. This is not just an army of Karens, to borrow the what's the word I'm looking for? The insult from the pandemic. It's an army of Sarahs, a bunch of Sarah Palins that are out there making another grasp at political power. And as they rise to prominence in right-wing circles, as more people study what they're doing, you can see why there are some groups that refer to others like Moms for Liberty as hate groups, that these are groups that are trying to ban books and that they overwhelmingly target people of color and LGBTQ plus authors, all consistent with groups that promote a hierarchical social order in which men are over women and straight people are over LGBTQ people, according to Esther Prinz, a Penn State professor who has studied the intersection of education, advocacy, and Christian nationalism. Prinz says that's why they don't want children learning about racism or about the existence of people who are not straight or the existence of families that aren't the heterosexual nuclear family. They say they just want parental rights, but I would contend conservative parents already have the ultimate parental rights. They have the right to teach their kids at home whenever they want and teach them whatever they want. Teach them the world is flat. Teach them that guns don't kill. Teach them that Christianity is the only true religion. Teach them that masks don't slow the spread of COVID, or that being gay or trans is strictly a choice. You can teach anything at home where science, experience, or compassion would tell the rest of us to teach something different than what you might prefer the world to be. What's more, they have the parental right to put their kids in a private school. And thanks to the advantages that come to conservatives, thanks to gerrymandering and corporate cash and politics, that private school education is being subsidized by Wisconsin taxpayers. That's not parental rights. That's political rights and privilege for conservatives. And now we're learning that, those same folks have parental rights to put their kid in college, even if they don't match up favorably to an applicant who's Black, Asian, Hispanic, and so on, because those students' parents no longer have certain parental rights, like the right to a public education that is fairly funded before money is siphoned off and sent to private and religious schools. They don't have the parental right to expect their kids to be safe at school when conservative parents have the right to allow and even encourage guns to be brought to school. So again, it's really about parental rights for me, but not for thee. We'll talk more about public education and the fight to save it from what's happening in right-wing circles coming up after a check of weather and sports next. You're Up North. Hey there, Danielle.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for being here. How are you?
I'm doing well. I got a cup of coffee, so I'm ready to go.
Good. Well, thank you so much for doing this.
Sure.
So let me tell you what we'll be doing here. We've got a commercial break that runs for another minute and a half here.
Okay.
And then I will be talking with a weather person and getting a little update from them, giving a little quick sports update, and then introducing you and probably Heather. I think she'll be clicking in by that point. And then we'll be having a conversation until 7:29. We'll take another commercial break then. And if you're able to hang around, we'll talk up until 7:50.
Okay, sounds
All
good.
right. So we'll talk a bit about, your school district, your decision to run, what prompted that, and, the issues that you think are most important for people to keep in mind.
Okay.
Well, that's great. So whenever I'm talking, everybody on StreamYard is only on one channel of the radio board. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put you back into the waiting room just so that, no background noises from you are heard while we're doing weather and sports, but I will be bringing you back in just a couple of minutes here.
Okay, sounds great.
All right. Thanks, Danielle.
Thanks, Pat.
Unchain my heart, baby, let me be. Unchain my heart.
As mentioned, this was released by Ray Charles this day in 1961. Really nice day by and large. For much of the holiday weekend, there were, of course, the scattered showers here and there. And I did talk about the feeling of satisfaction when you can finish all your backyard grilling just before the next line of thunderstorms comes in or whatnot. But it was still, again, I was able to get on the boat all 4 days, the past 4 days. So that's a big win in my book. And now we'll see what the weather's like at midweek all across the state of Wisconsin as we bring in Jennifer Wojcicki from Weatherology to tell us more. Jennifer, good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, and it was overall not too bad. And if you were able to get that grilling in, that's great here, especially for the holiday yesterday. Today, we're looking at still a chance for some showers and storms for nearly everyone today, except around Amory and Baldwin. Just cloudy skies there with highs in the mid 70s, about 10 degrees below average for this time of the year as a cold front starts to push through that part of the state today. Otherwise, it looks like a chance for showers and storms from Madison up to Oshkosh over to Wausau and down to the southwestern part of the state for the morning hours into the afternoon. Then a chance for these showers. These storms developing in the afternoon hours around Waukesha and Milwaukee. Looks like a marginal risk for severe weather today and tonight from a line extending from Madison to Oshkosh and for the southeastern part of the state. So definitely something we'll keep you posted on throughout the day. Otherwise, highs in the 80s for most, upper 70s around central Wisconsin. Sunny and cooler for most tomorrow as the cold front fully pushes through the state. In the 70s across the board, a little more cloud cover near Lake Michigan. Friday, sunny, mid 70s to right around about 80. Nothing too thrilling coming in to round out the work week. Then a sneak peek at the weekend. Looks like at least slight on and off again chances for showers and storms for everyone. Starting to warm up a little bit by Sunday as a warm front starts to push through with highs back into the 80s for most.
Whatever keeps us from having that drought word creep into our vocabulary more and more is a good thing. We'll take that spotty rain where we can get it. Jennifer, thank you so much. Hope you have a great day.
Thanks, you too.
There's Jennifer Wachitsky from Weatherology. Right now it's 76 degrees in Madison. La Crosse reporting 72, Wausau 71, and up here on Lake Wissota it is 67 degrees. In sports, the Chicago Cubs left fielder Ian Happ was the star of yesterday's game, throwing out Brewers who were trying to score the winning runs in both the 10th and 11th innings. And as a result, the Cubs were able to hang on and win in 11 innings, 7-6 over the Brewers. It was the second time in as many days that the Cubs were able to put up 6 runs, but then only to see the Brewers come chipping right back. The Brewers won on Monday, fell short yesterday. Game 3 is this evening. Game 4 is tomorrow afternoon. Then the Cincinnati Reds come to town for the weekend before starting the All-Star break. There's so much to talk about in the area of the state budget bill that is now on Governor Evers' desk, and whether it is enough to try to use the line item veto to alter what Republicans have sent him, or if the entire package is either so irreparable, irredeemable, or just from a symbolic standpoint, should Governor Evers veto the whole thing and make Republicans come back into session? Now, we've talked about this for a few days here about the different ways that you can look at this. One point of view that I wanted to share was, again, one of my favorite blogs to read is Jake Edwards, who writes about state financing, and he compares the Legislative Fiscal Bureau, the way that they've looked at both the Republican budget bill and what Governor Evers would propose that Republicans got rid of. And in both cases, pretty much the entire record $7 billion surplus, goes away at the end of these 2 years. Now, I'm also quick to add a lot more goes into the state's rainy day fund. So it's not like we're going to end up with nothing. My point being, and Jake's point being, if you're going to use up most of a $7 billion surplus, what do you want to use it on? And Governor Evers, of course, was using it on public education, expanding healthcare, making childcare more affordable. Republicans blew much of it on tax cuts geared toward the very rich. Is it something that the governor can save with his line item veto, or is it something that he should try to make Republicans negotiate with him for a better package overall? Contained in all of this is by way of a separate bills, a compromise that was reached between the governor and Republicans about how much extra money is going to go into public education, but at the cost of making Republicans happy by putting a lot more money into vouchers as well, which overwhelmingly go to private and religious schools. And so to talk about that topic and more, Danielle Whitaker is joining us now, and she is a new school board member from Bristol in Kenosha County. And we want to talk more about, what prompted her to get further involved in her community on her school board and the way that she sees issues like this. Danielle, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. It's nice to have you on Up North News Radio.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. I guess to share a little bit about why I chose to run, and now that I'm a new school board member, I've always had a spirit of volunteerism. So I've been a part of our PTO, and the timing just felt right. I have 2 daughters. They're both starting their elementary journey. I always tell people I'm still an adult nerd. I love education. And so it just felt and fit right for me. So I became more involved in trying to understand school finance. Cause I'll tell you right now, like school finance is an onion. And the more and more you peel back, you really think. I came from the business sector in my traditional job. So you think it's going to look one way. And certainly with school finance, it looks very, very different. So last year in 2022, Bristol School did a facilities referendum that went really well. Our community passed that. And so we're getting the much needed facility and security and all the upgrades from our older building that was needed. But now really looking at the operating budget and what that looks like. And I have been learning as much as I possibly can this spring and participating in the budget process and trying to understand that. And I give a lot of credit to the Wisconsin Public Education Network. I attended one of their webinars and I'm so grateful for the education they've provided as a parent, and that's open to anyone. And they really use layman terms because, again, when I came in, Heather and her team were so gracious in giving me as much information as possible that I could understand.
Well, and the aforementioned Heather is Heather Dubois-Bournon from the Wisconsin Public Education Network. And Heather joins us for the conversation as well. And Heather, thank you so much. Good to have you here this morning. I think we might have you on mute. Are you hearing me okay there, Heather? There we go. Oh, we lost her. I think that
we'll get her back.
Yeah, we'll get her back in there. Once we do, then I see it. It says she might have to use a different browser to plug back in. So we'll continue our conversation here as far as how the Wisconsin Public Education Network, they're very active about this. They want people to know, not just for this budget cycle, but overall for years have been trying to let people know that what started as a fairly little by comparison, experiment in the city of Milwaukee now affects every Wisconsin school district. It affects every Wisconsin taxpayer. And as you said, Danielle, when anybody comes into this and starts to learn the system, you understand that this voucher setup these aren't small onions. This is a very big deal.
Right. And I would say that my journey was that, we needed to do an operating referendum in Bristol. Ours narrowly did not pass, along with a lot of other districts in the state. And so that was really disappointing and hard to see. But we lost by 80 votes. And really the big question about operating referendum and what that looks like, I feel like the more I learn about it, I feel like school finance language is really vague and confusing, almost on purpose. And so I'm trying to educate as many people. That's why I'm here today, so that parents and community members can understand a little bit more about those questions. But I actually went and tried to testify, but there were so many people who came to the Joint Finance Committee to testify, which was amazing to see. But so many, what I was struck by, Pat, was that so many school board members, superintendents from across the state, we're talking from Beloit all the way up north to down in Southeast Wisconsin, like myself, and all were requesting the same thing: better investment in our public schools. And I mean, that was the vast majority of the people who were testifying. And for this budget now to not reflect what the majority of people were asking, and that the majority of school board members and superintendents, and we're talking the people who were coming, I'll tell you, were from very ideologically conservative areas, rural schools and city schools, but everyone was coming to say the same thing, that the funds that we're receiving from the state are not cutting what we need today for student needs. And I was optimistic at that point that they would listen. And now, I really don't know. I'm not sure what to expect moving forward.
Well, allow me to take just a little editorial aside because of something you said there about how there are people who consider themselves conservatives and yet are not happy about what's happening with school spending. And it really is the difference for the listeners as to why they often hear me say right wing rather than conservative. Because I have a lot of conservative friends, a lot of people who vote Republican, but there are certain things, when they say conservative, they mean fiscal conservative, that, they don't want Donald Trump-esque, gold toilets in our schools, but they still want our kids to have a good education. They believe in, personal liberties and small government, but they also don't want, abortion rights taken away, which is why you see conservatives, voting the way they do on certain social issues. So to bring it back to the school funding issue, there is a right wing that wants to undermine public education for whatever reason. It may be religious and social, it may be fiscal, it may be profit motivated, whatever the case may be. And they've made tremendous inroads under the guise of fiscal conservatism or competition or parental rights. And Danielle, you're new to the Bristol School Board, but you've certainly seen enough to know that the voucher school program isn't some kind of a panacea. It isn't, I would argue, in many cases, even a viable alternative to a good neighborhood local school.
I mean, I love my public school. And so I believe that I would love to see it across the state be funded in a way that we could all imagine what we could do. I mean, honestly, I see a seven here just an outsider. I see a $7 billion surplus, but a decade and a half of disinvestment in public schools. And I sit here and I say, that's not good governance. I believe in fiscal responsibility. My house is fiscally responsible. But if I had a huge surplus but wasn't meeting the needs of my own kids, that's not fiscal responsibility by any means.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see if Heather is able to join us as well. Heather, you with us this morning?
No.
No, I'm not hearing you over stream. Although I do see, are you on the phone as well? Maybe we can put that on there. Let me just hit a little button and see if that works. Are you okay? Heather, are you with us by phone?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Oh yeah, now I hear you over the phone just fine. Hey, thank you for calling in. Sorry, we've got our little technical snafus here, but I know that you've been able to hear a bit from Danielle. I've got 30 seconds till break. So did you want to give any general impression before we go to commercial here, Heather?
No, since I just was able to jump in, I missed the question. So I'll join you after the break.
Okay. Well, Heather Dubois-Bornan joins us from the Wisconsin Public Education Network. Danielle Whitaker is a parent in Bristol in Kenosha County and a new school board member as well. And when we come back, we'll take much more time to discuss just what's being proposed, how public education is getting more funding, but so are voucher schools who are not nearly as accountable. And so as a result, kids are not getting all the educational opportunities they truly deserve. More next. You're Up North. All right. Let's see. Heather, let's find out.
Well, she's probably not going to be able to hear you if she's just on the phone lines.
Yeah.
So
that's okay. Well, if she's here, she can now. I can see that she tried to put something in the chat window. So, folks listening to The Secret Show, you get to listen to us. Just kind of try to
can't hear us.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. I like how Danielle's just going into full teacher mode for this. This is great.
Not a teacher, but I have certainly been on the opposite end of these Zoom, like these Zoom scenarios, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Try your AirPods. Yeah, just try and see if.
Oh yeah, definitely try. We've definitely done interviews with AirPods.
And really, we've only covered kind of why I'm here.
Yeah.
And I think Pat wants to talk about vouchers, and you're going to be more educated on that matter.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here.
And we can't hear you right now on the phone because we're in a radio commercial break, but you do have the phone line there as a backup. But yeah, if the AirPods work, that would be even better.
You could also refresh the browser too if you haven't done that yet. She's running.
Yeah, she's grabbing her AirPods. I just talked to her on the phone.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and that other caller we had, I just couldn't hear them for some reason. Maybe their
Okay.
phone was muted.
I was just up north. Just ate Sainer Pub pizza.
Where were you?
St. Germain area.
Oh, okay. Oh, nice. I just had to ask because, when you say up north and you're in Kenosha, you could have said Wisconsin Dells, and then that would have been a thing, about whether that counts as up north, Uh-oh. Now where'd Danielle go?
Doesn't mean much. It doesn't mean anything.
As we mentioned earlier in our history lesson and music break, the first Lilith Fair kicked off with Sarah McLachlan on this day in 1997. Well, a few technical gremlins notwithstanding, we've been talking to Danielle Whitaker, a school board member from the Bristol area, and Heather Dubois Bornon is joining us as well from the Wisconsin Public Education Network, and she's trying to get clicked in either by phone or through her AirPods. Heather, I think we've got you on the phone at least. Are you able to hear us all right?
I can hear you now, Pat. Can you hear me?
Yes, hear you wonderfully. Thank you. Okay, as we wait for Danielle to come back on, let's talk from a Wisconsin Public Education Network standpoint. And let me ask it this way, in terms of this week and the matter of whether Governor Evers should veto this budget or try to fix it with line item vetoes. Is there a stance that the Wisconsin Public Education Network and its members are taking on this?
Our board has joined many other coalition partners around the state in calling on Governor Evers to reject a budget that would send kids back to school for what would be the 15th year in a row without an inflationary level of increase to their funding. The gap right now between what the private schools and the independent vouchers are getting as a brand new and guaranteed increase in both ability to spend and spendable funds from the state is so unfair and so what we call gap widening in terms of making existing disparities worse, that it's just not something I think we can justify doing. And I think the question that folks have been asking is, why? At a time of historic surplus, are we even considering the possibility of sending our kids back to school once again with less than, when we know we could make moves in this budget to start closing those gaps? So yeah, that's what our board has called, and our staff agrees. Our network partners around the state are really conflicted. They're so used to a system that underfunds and underserves that they're scared of risking the tiny increase that they got now, because they're literally afraid, people have told us, that our legislature is so malicious that it would make the budget even worse for public schools should they return to a base budget if the governor vetoes it. I like to have a little bit more faith in our elected officials than that, and I would hope that our Republican legislators who pushed this budget through would take mercy on the children they serve and look at the numbers that came out from the DPI last week and fix this budget so that more districts go back to school with some spendable aid, because right now fewer than 60% do.
But Heather, we've also seen when we talk about being afraid of this legislature, they provided more reason for that fear this week in passing a budget with a $7 billion surplus that not only gave nothing extra to the University of Wisconsin system, but gave it a symbolic cut in funding because, again, they didn't like something that the university system was doing. So I guess I definitely see how those fears are warranted to have a legislature that is so hostile to the notion of a free local public education.
Yeah, that sort of heavy-handedness, the political game playing with not just the budget, but sort of the policy level stuff, trying to tell the university what it can spend its money on, trying to dictate what sort of programs are and aren't good for kids from the State House is really part of a larger problem that we've seen in this state of lawmakers creating an unrealistic and unhelpful sense of distrust in our public institutions, and there's sort of constant undermining them and choking them of funding, and then accusing them of not being effective or efficient when they've done the best they could with those scarce resources. It's just a classic example of that, and it's really tragic. And that's one of the things that we definitely oppose in this budget that $32 million cut to the UW system, and also the other things in the budget that really hurt kids, cutting childcare shares, $320 million to that program. That's going to be devastating for children and families and economies around the state. What are we thinking right now? It makes no sense. We need to invest in a budget that positions our children to thrive, that invest in the public schools that are the hearts of our communities. And right now we are miles away from the budget that Governor Evers initially proposed that would have put $2.6 billion into our public schools. And the proposal on the table is an absolute joke.
Here's the thing. We can't even get to the fiscal concerns, the dollars and cents going to these school districts, when it appears that other groups have created these other social issue, I would argue, distractions, whether it's related to banning books, dictating curriculum. Of course, we're familiar with the old, masking, vaccine, and closure fights from the pandemic. We have a group now called Moms for Liberty, and this Moms for Liberty group is quickly being exposed as being far from a grassroots group about parental rights. But Heather, it raises the question, whose parental rights? Whose parental rights matter more in Wisconsin? And what about the kids' rights? What are your thoughts on that, Heather? I think let's
talk about what right. No, I hear you. I'm taking my time with this one because it's just such a false flag, as we used to call it, right? We're chasing the wrong problem here. Only our public schools protect the rights of our children to a free and equitable public education, one that allows them the opportunity to have all their needs met. Their needs if they are students with disability, their rights if they are an LGBTQ student, their rights to be protected against discrimination by the systems that serve them. If you choose to send your child to a different kind of institution, those rights are no longer guaranteed. So my concern has never been with the choices that that parents are making for what they think is best for their kids. Parents should always make the choices they think are best for their kids. That's not my concern. My concern is the right of the student to thrive in their school setting. And our obligation as a state and our obligation as a community of people who care about kids is to make sure that those rights are being protected at the school level, and that the state is meeting its obligation to affirm and defend those rights. And right now, our state is not doing its job and is doing everything it seems in its power, as you said, to kind of facilitate distrust and dissent and challenges that make it harder for our public schools to serve our kids. Meanwhile, we're throwing money at systems that don't have to follow federal law protecting students, that put the these entitlements above the state's obligation to fund its private schools, and it's absolutely unethical.
Heather, Danielle, the point that I've made frequently is that this isn't about being anti-private school necessarily. This is about using our tax dollars in ways that, again, siphon it away quite intentionally from our public education, something that you've talked about seeing with your business background. And now as a new school board member, the amount of money that could be used for the betterment of all students, not just those, either of means or privilege or, a certain series of social beliefs.
Well, the two things that were shocking that I discovered is the reimbursement rate for special education. Again, prior to about a year ago, I never asked any of these questions as just a resident or as a parent. I mean, the fact that our state would this last year reimburse like our school 30%, 30 cents on the dollar. But if they go down the street to a private school, they'd be reimbursed at 90%. I have no other way to compute that, to see that huge discrepancy, and it's completely unfair. And then, just to learn more about that. And then even the messages of what was signed a couple weeks ago, where they're talking about $1 billion invested in our students. I don't think that that's really accurately even representing what's already been signed, because they talked about a cost per instruction increase. Well, first of all, I'm finding out that cost per instruction increase, which doesn't mean inflation again, is still rated on scale. So we as a school still have no idea what we'll receive on that increase. But also they're essentially giving revenue authority. So in my mind, the local state legislator decided to make me go back to local taxpayers to go through a revenue authority instead of, again, using a surplus that we have and funding where we're able to. Our biggest thing would be special education that needs to be bumped. Our neighboring states have figured it out, and we're just woefully behind.
Danielle, when you decided to run for school board, you said there was a lot to learn. You likened it to peeling back an onion.
Yeah.
But what is it that you want your neighbors to know that you've learned since getting on the school board? Because you clearly learned enough to motivate yourself to run, but now you know that you're being put in the role of bad guy by the legislature because you're the one that has to ask voters if they'll increase their taxes. Based on that knowledge and others, what other things are you trying to make sure that your neighbors understand about the school funding system in Wisconsin?
One, even in our situation, ours, if we had to change things, would likely be tax neutral. So I'm thankful for that. I'm also so proud of our school, who have consistently done so much with what they have received. I think just to continually to ask more questions, there's annual meetings. I'd love for people, even if you don't, school is always a proximity issue. If you have kids in the district, you're motivated to ask questions, maybe grandkids. But if you're a resident, just learn more about this and don't necessarily believe all the press releases that are put out there. You have to ask questions and see the history. And as I've explored and learned more, that's helped me understand kind of the dynamics of what's taking place. And bottom line, if you're going 16 years with adjustments that are below inflation, I wouldn't stay at a job if that was the case. But students don't have a choice. It means a kid who started in kindergarten went the entire length of their school career with adjustments that don't even meet inflation. That's not fair to students. So that's what I want parents and our community members to know, and to put some pressure on those who are elected, whatever side of the spectrum that we're on. Most people agree and most people want to support their public school. And so I'd love for our community to speak more to our elected officials so they can know how your representative voted, and then communicate your request to your elected officials.
And then Heather, to wrap things up, it is just so important to repeat something Danielle said, that in the entirety of somebody graduating this year, their legislators never kept public school spending up with inflation. They never took any substantive action on, preventing school shootings. They're cutting the University of Wisconsin system and affordable childcare programs. It sure seems, Heather, that this is not the strategy you'd want to address a labor shortage, much less a quality of life issue in Wisconsin.
Absolutely not. And Danielle is exactly right. We can't believe the hype around this budget or around how school funding works. We just have to look at the facts. And the facts are 39% of districts are going to go back to school with less state aid than they had this year. And that's after 2 years of $0 in increased spendable aid from the state. That is absolutely wrong. Local taxpayers are going to be footing the bill for this budget for a generation to come, and it's outrageous. Another thing that we haven't mentioned, Pat, is that nearly 80% of kids participating in the Wisconsin Parental Choice Program, that's the one that goes statewide, never set foot in a public school. These are kids who have always already been in private schools, or who, started them in kindergarten after the program had started.
And we're simply, subsidizing something that was already underway. And with that, we've run out of time for this segment. Heather Dubois-Bournan from the Wisconsin Public Education Network, Danielle Whitaker from the Bristol School Board. Thank you both so very much. Great to visit with you both, and wish you all the best on your continued efforts.
Thanks, Pat.
All right, we will take a break and wrap up our conversation for this Wednesday morning next. You're Up North. All right, there we go, Heather. Thank you so much. Mr. Alba, how are you?
Mr. Kreitlow, I'm well, and you?
Yes, doing well. Yes, Heather, we're definitely having you back on. No worries there. All right, Heather, have a great day. Todd, what did you do with your holiday?
We had a show on Monday, and yesterday I spent most of the day unpacking.
By the way, Pat, before we begin the next segment, I'm going to need you to very carefully open your bottom right desk drawer.
Before the segment starts?
Oh, you can do it when the segment. I mean,
Oh,
either way.
Okay. Okay. I guess we'll
Just open it carefully.
Open it carefully. Dun 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 dun.
I don't know if you have to be that careful.
Okay.
You have 10 seconds to get out of Lake Wissota.
So yeah, between the two of you, I suppose you have all these horror stories to share about unpacking at a new place. And
I'm in. Now it's just a matter of trying to find everything and get it unpacked. Aaron, are you?
Yeah. It hasn't been too bad. It's just taken some time.
Yeah. Good gravy. They have fireworks at Lake Wissota on the 4th of July, Pat?
They have things all around. Dr. Lyerly, to what do we owe the honor?
Oh,
well,
Dr.
good
Lyerly.
morning. How are you guys?
Well, fine.
Fantastic. How are you?
You just
I'm
parachuting in or do you have some breaking news here? What do you got for us?
I do.
Oh.
Breaking news. Pat Kreitlow took the day off for his birthday, so
Oh,
we
good
couldn't
Lord.
not be here
Right, 5 seconds.
celebrating your birthday.
All right,
with you.
5 seconds. Here we go.
Go, 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 go,
shorty, it's your birthday. We gon' party like this.
Oh, what are we doing over here? I have we don't have time for me to tell the story about how my wife once tried to throw a surprise birthday party for me, and I unintentionally undermined it by agreeing to work a double shift that day because I didn't think my wife was doing anything for my birthday. So there was no party. She had to send everybody home. I've never, and yet here I get this surprise party. Dr. Lyerly joins us from an undisclosed location out west, and Todd Alba joins us because I asked him to. But it's still a surprise when he shows up here because he doesn't have to. Good morning, kids.
Good morning.
All right.
Good morning. And can I just mention that your wife continues to be amazing? Because I don't know if our listeners obviously can't see us, but we're all decked out in our Pat Kreitlow plaid shirts today.
Oh my
Except for Pat
gosh!
Kreitlow.
Look at. I thought something looked a little different about Aaron. Look at that. Now I feel bad. I was going to put on a plaid one today and went for just solid black. I'm the outlier here, but that's so cute. You guys are fun. Thank you.
Well, let's bring it back to the amazing Dr. Kreitlow, who requests that you reach down into your right desk drawer.
Oh,
and open
me?
it slowly.
Oh, I thought it was
slowly.
Todd that was supposed to do that. Okay.
No,
wait a minute.
Open it slowly.
Oh, wait.
Slowly, yes.
Yes, because
there's a note here.
It
says, "Throw this in the air, very festive." it's a bag of glitter to throw in the air. Like I'm going to do that to my office. All right, you guys said to. Here we go.
Look at that.
Hey, for my birthday.
You. Happy birthday to you.
Oh wait, I have a desk fan. Let's try this bad boy. Watch. Oh,
You have a desk fan? Wow.
I have a little tiny plug-in one, but I didn't have it on. Oh God. Oh,
That's my one.
Okay, that's
right there. That's
reach
fantastic.
back into your desk drawer. You're not done.
Let's see. This looks like a little pom-pom or something. Okay. All right.
For those listening on the radio that don't have the stream, that can't see it, Pat Kreitlow is now covered in gold.
What is that? This is a mug, a drink mug. Do I even want to know what this is? Am I supposed to taste it?
Yeah, I think so.
Do you trust your wife?
That's a Bloody Mary. Oh, all right. Let's see. Is that it? Oh, wait a minute. One more thing. Oh, no. Just a drink napkin that she put it on. That's, you guys. Wow.
There you go.
Wow. I'm blown away. Literally by this fan. I got to shut this off. Man, I am. Look at this. I was solid black, and now I'm covered head to toe. And
now you're solid gold.
Glitter.
You're a solid gold radio announcer.
Wow. All right. Well,
gold.
Yeah, this is it. Here's a sign of my advanced age. I'm thinking more about the vacuuming than I'm thinking about the actual, party that's going on here.
Fair enough.
But now there's a post-show Bloody Mary waiting for me. So I got that going for me, which is nice. Thanks, you guys.
Absolutely.
How about a little toast to Pat on his birthday?
Oh, well, thank you. Oh, look at that. Everybody's got their mugs. Nobody else has a Bloody Mary, or at least you better not.
Here's to Pat Kreitlow. Cheers. Happy birthday.
I cannot believe she pulled this off. Wow. This is I'm kind of speechless. I got to figure out how she did this, because
well, you get two physicians together, they can pretty much two women physicians, they can do anything.
They truly can. Yes, I know.
We had a lot of discussions about exactly what to put in your drawer.
I remember you two were texting, and all Sherry said was something like, "Oh, doctor talk" or whatever. Sherry's never struck me as. See, this is no longer this little pom-pom here that she made. It's actually, I'm now using it as a feather duster to get all the glitter off of my keyboard here and my mouse pad. Yikes. She's never struck me as the conspiratorial person, and yet there you two are conspiring. That was very kind of you. What else did you on your holiday weekend? Did you get to rest a bit, or were you working the whole time through out west?
I'm actually in northern Minnesota, and we have delivered a lot of babies this weekend. It's been lots of explosion of babies.
Any on Monday that share that very special birthday? None on Monday.
No.
Oh, okay. Well, see, it
I
just
left
makes
that
me
up
unique.
to you.
Okay, that's okay. But you had some July. Did you have July 4th babies? or were
We
they all
did.
over the weekend?
We had a few July 4th babies.
Okay. Which means
Mm-hmm.
their birthday, like mine, their birthday parties will be, very few and far between because all their friends will be out camping or, with family or whatever. So I'm in solidarity with those July 4th babies who have to share their birthday, much like the Christmas babies that have to do the same thing. But you know what? We make the best of it. And sometimes you get really nice surprises like this. This is very
Let's
awesome.
be honest. Birthdays come when they come. So it doesn't matter whether it's on the 4th of July or on Christmas Day or Thanksgiving. You are surrounded by people who love you,
Aw.
and it is your special day, and it's about you.
Oh, thank you. And
Yeah.
thank you to Matt Brown there for the little Facebook comment on it as well. So it's nice to know that people had tuned in and were very surprised as I was. And at this point have now tuned out. They want to come. Maybe they can come back after I finish this Bloody Mary and I can come on to Todd's show. And boy, we could really have a segment then, couldn't we? Todd's muted. What
You're
did you?
Muted.
Todd, come on, man. See, now we had that problem with a guest earlier. Maybe our maybe it's Aaron. Maybe
I
Aaron
don't think
is.
that's me.
Okay.
I think he might have hit a
Now
button.
we
with the
can.
mic or something.
You think
We
he might
can
have
put
hit it?
words
Wait a
in
minute.
Todd's mouth.
Oh, there he is. There he is. He's back now. What did you do?
I thought I hit. I've hit it on the StreamYard thing. It wasn't that. It was my mute button on my board.
You have a board there?
A little mixer board for my
Oh,
mic. Yeah.
wow. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Sounds good. What did the rest of your family do, Kristen? Your boys, are they like campers? Are they fireworks fans? Are they sit around and be bums? What's the 4th of July like when you're home with the boys?
Kind of random.
Mhm.
The older they get, every year is different. As your
Mhm.
family is growing, every holiday is a little bit different. You don't know who's coming. You don't know who's not going to be able to be there. You just kind of, just like life, you just roll with it.
You were asking Aaron before about fireworks around Lake Wissota because I talked about I can fall asleep to anything nowadays with these early hours. And one of the best parts about being on the lake, and I don't know, Kristen, if you have this in Green Bay or Todd where you are, but you basically get, theater in the round. If you take your boat out on Lake Wissota, after sunset, and people are setting them off all over the place. So there's no like one big organized show, but yeah, you get fireworks, a 360-degree fireworks show on the lake. If you choose to go out there, the more I've done this, the more I'm like, I don't trust these boaters. I'm not going out there anymore. So sometimes I'll just stand at the end of the dock and watch it. And it's really nice. It's, again, that's that whole summer in Wisconsin thing. It's why we do this here in the Midwest.
Mm-hmm.
Todd, we have completely wasted your opportunity to promote your show and made it
waste
all
at
about
all.
me. So
it should be. It's the Pat Greatlow show. Well, at least the next one will be.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you can find out if Todd, actually had something worthwhile to say by tuning in from 1 to 3 weekday afternoons. Kristen, you're amazing. Thank you so much.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday,
right.
Pat.
Thanks, you guys. Have a wonderful Wednesday. We'll do this again tomorrow morning, 6. Got me all flustered now. I flustered my own goodbye, my own sign off.